connecting and it's okay. Okay. Is that Dorit? Okay, so nice to see you all or to hear from you. Dorit, is that you? Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but okay. Hopefully it will go nice and smooth. There's always like some glitches, right? Okay, so I'm so excited about this new topic that we are starting to delve into. And this is about our dysfunctional family, which I wrote on the chat, our dysfunctional family that we are from. And it's in our bones, it's in our very being, and we all have it. And I want to just delve into it a little bit not a little bit, a lot of it in the Torah, because it really teaches us some powerful lessons, and we're gonna like sort of pull it apart. So what am I talking about? What am I referring to? We're talking about the story of Joseph and the brothers. Joseph and the brothers. The whole story with Joseph and the brothers is like mind-blowing. Like the unbelievable fighting that goes on with amongst the brothers, to the point where the brothers want to kill their brother. They literally want to kill their brother. It's mind-blowing to read this story in the Torah and just sort of like try to wrap our heads around it. Hi Raquel, so nice to have you. So what's going on here? We're talking about, I started off, hi Raquel, so nice to see your face. At least someone's showing their beautiful face.
I'll be eating, but yes, I will show my face.
You look so pretty. Okay, so we're delving into the story of our dysfunctional family, which is the story of Joseph and the brothers. So before we get into like the details of what happened, of what really happened and the perspective that we're really going to get into, I just want to go over the story in general. And before I do that, I just want you to realize and recognize that just like we need the oral Torah to really understand halacha, to really understand the laws of the Torah, of the actual written Torah, we need the oral Torah to explain and to understand the stories in the Torah also, because the stories in the Torah are, sometimes we think it's so crazy, like what's going on. And in order for us to understand it, to really understand it, we need the oral Torah to really delve into it and to break it apart for us. So first, I'm just going to go into the main idea of the story, just in case some of us are not familiar with it. I know that we have, like, I don't know if some of you have seen the Broadway show about Joseph and his coat, but I'm just going to go into it like a little bit, just the surface of the storyline, and then we're going to just delve into it a little bit. But keep in mind that the story is not you can't just take the story at its surface, because again, we need the oral Torah to really understand what the Torah, the written Torah, is actually teaching us about these stories. So what happens with the brothers? Yosef is one of the younger brothers, right? He's like the second to youngest. And all this whole story of Joseph being thrown into the pit and being sold and being given, being trying to be killed, was when he was 17 years old, and his brothers were a lot older than him. They were already established. They had their families. Some of them had children already, right? They already like had their own homes. They weren't living in their father's house anymore. Whereas Yosef was 17, he was still living under his father's roof, So I just wanted to like understand that storyline and where this is coming from. So what happens? The basic storyline, and you can add on if I'm missing some main points, but basically the brothers are all very, very righteous people. They're tzaddikim. They're very righteous. They're amazing, special people. And they live their lives according to the Torah. Even though they didn't get the Torah yet, they still live their lives as if they had the Torah, according to what they understood in the methodology that they learned from their father and their great-grandparents and everybody, to learn how to live their lives, because Torah is an instruction book for living. And the brothers were very special people, And Joseph was also was among the brothers, and they each had a different role to play. And we're getting into their roles in a little bit. But Yaakov, their father, Jacob, was an extremely special person. And the Torah says that Jacob encompassed both aspects of his grandparents, of Abraham and Yitzchak and Isaac. Abraham was all full of, like, he was known as chesed. He was known as kindness and giving, right? He always had people over at his home. He did Jewish outreach, right? He told people about God. He was like all about giving and love. He was all about chesed. And Isaac, Yitzchak, Abraham's son, was all about emes. It was all about strength. He was all about being strong. This is what the Torah says. This is what the law is. He was very black and white. He was very like, no, we have to be strong. He was known as strength. And they were both like really, really, really special. And that's why he was like, Isaac was all about learning and being educated. He was constantly learning Torah. He was constantly educating himself. He was like in the books. He was like real, like law was like his thing, right? And Jacob, who was the son of Isaac and the grandson of Abraham, encompassed both aspects. He was known for emet. He was known for the truth. He had the chesed and he had the kindness, and he also had from his father, he had this aspect of truth and law and right and wrong. Okay, so he encompassed both, and that's why the Jewish people come from Jacob, because we need to have a balance of both. We can't be only one thing. We can't be only one thing. We have to have everything. We have to have a little bit of everything, and that's what Jacob encompassed. So what happened? Jacob loved Joseph, and the Torah actually says it explicitly that he loved Joseph so much, and he kind of favored him, and it seems like he did favor him, and he gave him like a kesonat pasem, which is like a coat. He made him a beautiful coat with different colors, and we'll discuss why it was different colors and what that coat represented. But the basic storyline is just the Torah says that Jacob loved Yosef so much, more than all the other brothers, and he gave him a coat and he treated him really well. We'll understand what that relationship was like and why it was like that. But just to understand the basic idea that Joseph and Jacob were very, very close. They were tight. And the brothers were kind of jealous of that relationship. And we'll get into where that jealousy came from. But they were kind of jealous of that relationship, even though they were so, so special and they were such tzaddikim, they were so righteous. They were still very, very jealous of their brother, Joseph, because they really wanted a relationship with their father. This is like classic family feud, right? Like, oh, mom gave you, money for your down payment for your house, and what about me? How am I going to have down payment for my house if she gave you all the money, right? And this is like a family feud. Like, oh, you had a bigger wedding than I had, oh, you had a bat mitzvah and I didn't have a bat mitzvah, right? And we all have like these little things like, oh, mom gave you her pearl earrings. I thought I was going to get the pearl, and what am I going to get, right? And we start getting into this like jealousy mode. Not that we're like the brothers, because they were like on a very high level, but just to understand a little bit and to take away a little bit of what was going on here. So what happens? Joseph has a dream. And this is where like the whole thing comes crashing down, right? He has a dream. He has two dreams. One of his dreams is about these stalks of wheat, right? 12 stalks of wheat, and how they all are bowing down to one stalk of wheat, which is Joseph. And Joseph tells his brothers that he tells them this prophecy that he has, this dream, right? Because prophecy for him came in a dream, right? And with most prophets, that's how God spoke to prophets, through a dream or through a riddle. So Joseph tells his brothers this dream. By the way, I had a dream. This is what's going to happen in the future. You're going to be bowing down to me, which, by the way, it's true, right? We know that Joseph becomes the king, and they end up bowing to him, and they end up becoming, servants to him, and he's the king. But that's for later on. We already know what's going to happen in the future. But right now in this story, Joseph is telling his brothers this, and they're like, you see, he not only does he think that he's better than us because he has a relationship with our father, he's going to kill us. He's gonna dominate us. He thinks that he's better than us, and he's just the younger little brother. What makes him so great, right? So that was one dream. And then he has another dream also about the sun and the moon and the stars, and they're all bowing down to him. And right, we all know the story. And he tells them this prophecy again that he's gonna be the king, and they're gonna be subservient to him. Okay. So the brothers are really, really jealous, and they really are upset at him, and they decide they're gonna kill him. They're going to kill that's how strong the jealousy was, according to the Torah, right? Written Torah. They were so jealous of him, they were going to kill him. So what happens? They gather this whole thing up. They put together this whole, plan, and they all are on the same page. They're all killing him, except for Binyamin, except for Yosef's real brother. They were all half brothers to him, except for Joseph's real brother, Binyamin. They were all out to kill him. And they gathered up the plan, and they got him, and they put him together, right? And this happened, by the way, right after the Torah says that Yosef would bring evil reports about them to their father. Okay, and we talked about this, we referenced this in the story of when we were talking about Miriam, and how this is what brought us to Egypt, because Joseph spoke badly about his brothers to their father, right? We spoke about how we are in this place right now because people speak badly about each other. And Joseph, this is where the Torah tells us that Joseph talks to his father about the evil things that he talks evil about his brothers to his father. So his father thinks badly about the other brothers. What does he say about them? We're going to discuss later on. But what happens? The brothers are so mad at him. They're like, that's it. We had enough. We're going to kill him. They gather together. They're going to kill him. And they take him, and they're about to kill him. And then all of a sudden, Ruvain says, no. Let's just not kill him. Let's put him in a pit and let him naturally die. Let's see what happens. Like, if he's naturally going to die, he'll naturally die. If he's not going to naturally die, then he won't. Then it's not meant to be, right? Let nature take its course. And they say, okay, fine. We'll go with what Reuven says, and we'll put him in a pit. Like, of course he's going to die in the pit. The pit was like the Torah even says that the pit had terrible, dangerous things in the pit. Of course he's going to die. He's going to be killed in the pit. So, and he doesn't have any water or anything to eat. Of course he's going to die. But they put him in the pit. And then Yehuda says to them, no. You know what? Let's not put him in a pit. Let's take him out. Let's sell him. So they take him out of the pit and they sell him, and they're all okay with it. And then afterwards, the Torah says that they went to eat. They went to eat a feast, a meal. They took their bread and their meat, right? They ate. It's like as if like nothing happened, like they did nothing wrong. And then they went home. They told their father, hey, this is his coat, right? They take his coat. They killed an animal that they ate eventually, right? At this meal, they took a little blood. They put it on the coat. Said, oh my gosh, we found Yosef. We found his coat. Oh my gosh, he's dead. He's killed. That's it. The end. In the meanwhile, I want you to just think about this, because we're not going to talk about this topic today. But I want you to think about this idea that during this whole episode where the brothers went to Jacob, their father, and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Dad, we killed, your son, your favorite son, Joseph, was killed. We found his coat. He's dead. We can't find his body. We don't know where he is. Right? They fabricated this whole story. During this whole episode, there's a woman. Her name is Serach bas Asher, the daughter of Asher, which is one of the tribes. She's watching this whole event. Okay, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, and we're gonna delve into Serach, a fascinating woman who eventually, we're going to get into why, but eventually lives for forever. That the Hashem actually takes her body alive from this world, which is hard to understand. I guess maybe sort of like the woman Elijah, the prophet, Eliyahu Hanavi, right? But we'll get into her afterwards. But she's watching this whole scene. She sees the brothers coming back from a big trip. Her father included, Asher, her father included, and she sees them coming back and talking to Jacob, who she was actually very close with, her grandfather, Jacob. And she sees what's going on, and she hears them say, oh my gosh, Joseph must have been killed. We found his coat. And she hears, Serach bas Asher, the daughter of Asher, hears her grandfather crying and weeping. So sad that he lost his son, Joseph. Okay, just think of this scene. And then the brothers continue on. Jacob is extremely depressed from this. He cannot move on. He literally cannot move on. He doesn't get prophecy because the Torah tells us that if you want to have prophecy, you have to be in simcha mood. You have to be in happy, like you have to be happy. And he just couldn't get happy. He was like literally depressed. He went through major depression because he lost his son, and he never really had closure of burying him, putting him, saying goodbye to him. He never really had that closure, and he was so young. He was 17 years old. And this was the son that he was waiting for so long with his wife Rachel, right? Rachel. He couldn't have a child. They couldn't have children for so many years. He was waiting for so long to have him. And then all of a sudden he dies, and he never had closure. He didn't really die, but he dies, right? In his mind. And he never had closure, and he was so depressed this whole time. And we're going to learn what Serach's role was in that whole episode with Jacob being so depressed, but we're not going to get into it today. So let's get into this whole story. And what happens? Joseph is sold to Egypt. We talked about this last time with Miriam. He's sold to Egypt. He's eventually brought to Egypt, and he's sold to actually a bunch of Arabs, right? And then they sell him to the Egyptians. And this whole story unwinds where he's in with Pharaoh, and then he's put into prison, and then he's taken out of prison, and then he becomes like second in command, like the prince, the king, right, of Egypt. And Pharaoh like looks up to him and asks him advice and gets advice from him, and he's literally leading the Egypt, right? And because of Joseph, Egypt is the only one in the Middle East, I guess you could say, that doesn't have a hunger. They're the only ones that have their even though there's no rain and there's nothing going on in terms of produce, they were the only ones that had enough to sustain themselves and all the countries around them, right? Because Joseph saw ahead what was going to happen, and he had prophecy, and he was able to save up, like good Jewish family saves up, right? Like we all have in our pantries, and how we all run to Costco and get all the toilet paper that we need, right? Because we're going through a pandemic. So Joseph saw the future, and he got all the toilet paper that he needed. He wiped out Costco, right? He got everything that he needed for their country, and to make money from all the other countries, just like Costco does, and knows, you know what, we're gonna have the most toilet paper in the country so that we can make the most money during this crazy pandemic where everybody's like, I need toilet paper, right? So Joseph was very smart, and he saw ahead of the time, and he collected all the foods, and he had a pantry, which was unheard of, right? They didn't have refrigerators in those days, and he really was able to keep a lot of extra food and make money for the country, for Egypt, and therefore they were very, very wealthy. And that's what brought the brothers down to Egypt, right? Spiritually, it was because Joseph spoke badly about the brothers, but physically, because they needed food. They were starving. They were going through a hunger. And even though they were extremely wealthy, they did not have food. So what's going on here? I want to get into this whole story and really delve into it. I just basically said the basic idea of the story. And then we'll get into the other part of the story where the brothers come down and they speak to Joseph, and they have this whole interaction with Joseph. We'll get into that story in another class, but let's just really delve into what's really going on here. So I spoke about before how each Shevet, each tribe, had a different trait and talents that the Jewish people would need to inherit, to become the Jewish people. The tribes were the ones that possessed the different traits and talents for the Jewish people to survive. And all of us have the different traits. And they each had a different part of the personality of Jacob. Remember I said that Jacob had encompassed everybody, embodied all the Jewish people? Because he had everything, he had a balance of everything. But each tribe had a different role to play, and a different talent, a different personality of Jacob. And each personality was extremely important for the continuity of the Jewish people and for the foundation of the Jewish people. And they knew that this was their role. They knew that their role was to build the Jewish nation, the Jewish people, I guess we should really call it. And what was Joseph's job? Joseph's job was different from what the other brothers had. Joseph's job was similar to his father's because he was like a spitting image of his father. Besides for looking like him, he actually was like him. He encompassed all the Jewish people's personalities. He had all the personalities of Jacob. Also, he had a balance of both the laws, the black and white, the chesed, the kindness, the emes, the truth, right? He was emet, he was truth. And he encompassed all of it. And therefore, his role was to facilitate all the other brothers into getting to get to their roles and to help them realize their potential and to sort of manage them and to push them and to nurture them into their roles. And that's why, and everything that Joseph does precedes his brothers, right? Joseph goes down to Egypt first, and then his brothers come after him, right? Later on, Joshua, who is a descendant of Joseph, conquers Israel, and then the tribes develop the land. They come after. Eventually, the Talmud tells us that the Messiah of Yosef will come first and prepare the way for the Messiah of David, the Messiah from the descendants of David. So Joseph always precedes the tribes. And the reason why is because his role is to sort of pave the way for the tribes, for the Shvatim, to develop their roles as the founders of the Jewish nation. And they all knew it. They knew what their roles were. The problem was, and this is so, so, so important, the problem was, and this is where the rift came to be, was that there was a halachic debate. There was a debate in the way that they saw the law. What happened? The Jewish, the tribes saw themselves as Jewish. They saw themselves as Jewish from embryo. And their role was to be the founders of the Jewish nation. Joseph, on the other hand, saw the tribes as Noachites. They were not Jewish yet. We didn't get the Torah. You are not Jewish. You're paving the way for the Jewish people, but you are not Jewish yet. You are Noachite. And therefore, all the laws that apply to the Noachites apply to you. And the tribes felt differently. They felt, no, we are Jewish, and therefore we are going to follow the laws of the Jewish people. And that's where their rift came to be. Let me give you an example, and just so that you can understand how deep this was. Because we always see it as, oh, they're just jealous of their brother. But it was really much more than that. They actually saw it as a halachic debate. They saw it as like an actual, court case, which is unbelievable. So let me give you an example of what happened. So I mentioned this last time that Joseph reports to his father all the things that the brothers are doing, right? What does he do? He says they're eating from the flesh that's torn from a live animal. Okay, that's number one. They're eating from live animals. Number two, they're calling their maidservants, Zilpah and Bilhah, the maidservants of Jacob. They're calling their sons slaves. Okay, that's number two. That is what he tells his father. He's having like a halachic discussion with his father. He's telling them, look what the brothers are doing. I'm watching them. I'm doing my role. I'm being a watchdog. I'm watching what they're doing. But look what they're doing. They're doing something wrong. And three, they weren't conducting themselves properly with the women of Canaan. So from the brothers' perspective, they weren't doing anything wrong because all of those three things were okay to do as long as you were a Jew and you were keeping the Torah. But according to Joseph, those three things were wrong because they were Noachites. And according to the law of Noachites, you're not allowed to eat from a living animal. This is pre-Torah, right? And the Jewish people are allowed to eat before the motion ceased, before they, when they kill the animal, you're allowed to actually eat from the animal before they could still be shaking, right? And this was all like a debate about what the law is. And every single time he went to his father, the problem was not the report, because it was true what he was saying. They were eating from live animals, and they were calling the maidservants children slaves, and they weren't conducting themselves properly with the Canaanite women. But according to the brothers, they were doing the right thing. They were actually doing the right thing because they were following the law that they thought that was the law for them. But according to Joseph, they weren't. That wasn't the problem that Joseph was reporting that. The problem was in the way that Joseph was reporting it. Joseph was reporting it as if it was coming from his perspective. And he was telling his father his perspective. He was saying, you see what the brothers are doing? I'm watching them. I'm trying to help them out. I'm trying to show them what their roles are. But you know what they're doing? They're doing this, this, and this. And in their father's eyes, their father saw the brothers as like, why are they doing something wrong? Joseph should have gone to their father and said, the brothers think that they're Jewish, and therefore they're doing this and this and this. But according to their way of thinking, because they think that they're Jewish, they're doing the right thing. I don't see it that way. I'm seeing it differently. And therefore, that's what caused the brothers to start getting jealous and start getting upset at Joseph. Because they're tainting, they felt that Joseph is tainting them in their father's eyes. You understand that? To the point where, and this is where the relationship with Joseph and Jacob were so close. Joseph actually learned with his father. Could you believe that? Like, it's actually so beautiful. Like, instead of going to school, to yeshiva, to learn, he actually learned from his father. Every day, all day, he learned from his father. And his father's way of teaching was from the yeshiva called Shem Ve'ever, which was before the time of Noach. Okay, this yeshiva was built way back. I think in the time of Adam. So this whole methodology of way of teaching was coming from the way Jacob was learning it with the Noachide laws, where Jacob also thought that he was considered a Noachide. He didn't consider himself as Jewish. And this is an important point. I know it's like details, but this is an important point because Joseph was so close with his father because he learned the way his father learned. The brothers didn't consider themselves as Noachites, and therefore they didn't want to learn from a schooling, a way of learning of like Shem Ve'ever, which is Noachide laws. They wanted to learn the way the Torah is going to be teaching us. So they didn't learn from that yeshiva. They learned from a different yeshiva. They learned from a different school. And therefore Joseph made such a strong connection with his father, and that was sort of that was like the beginning of the jealousy. And that's what started causing them to be jealous of Joseph. He had a strong connection with his father where they learned together and they had a different way of thinking. And that's why Jacob gave Joseph a coat full of colors. Kesona pasim. Why? Because it represented his multifaceted role. So this is where the perception is different. And I want you to hear this really, really clearly so that you could really understand when the Torah says that the brothers were really righteous people, you have to understand where they're coming from. Does anybody know what a rodef is? A rodef is someone that's out to kill somebody. And if you know for a fact that somebody is out to kill you, you are halachically, according to the Jewish law, are obligated to kill them first. You're obligated to kill that person first. A rodef is someone that's seeking to kill you, and you're able to kill them first if you know that someone's going to kill you. The brothers saw Joseph as a rodef. They saw him as someone that's trying to kill them because in their mind they were like, what is Joseph doing? First, he learns with our father. He thinks that he's a Noachide and we're Noachide. We're not Noachide. He taints he puts us in a bad light to our father. And now he has a dream that he's going to rule over us. He's going to kill us. He's going to take away our role as for the Jewish people. He's going to literally kill us. We're going to have to be servants to him, and he's going to just destroy us and take us away from this world. And therefore, they came to consensus together, all the brothers, besides for Binyamin, right? All the brothers were on the same page. They all believed very strongly that halachically, according to the Jewish law, they were able to kill their brother. And therefore, they went to kill their brother. And that's why the Torah says, after they sold him, right? They put him in the pit and they ended up selling him. They really wanted to kill him. What did they do? The Torah says they killed an animal and they took bread, they made bread, and they had a whole feast because they literally had no doubt in their mind that they did anything wrong. Could you believe it? In their minds, they literally thought that they were doing the right thing because he was a rodef. Joseph was trying to kill them. And they literally painted this whole picture. Once they had that image in their mind that Joseph is trying to kill them, everything went along with it. That's why he's having a dream, because he's trying to kill us. That's why he's running with our father. That's why our father gave him a kasonas pasam. They gave him a nice, beautiful coat. Only him and not us. And all these thoughts in their mind were painting this big picture of Joseph trying to kill them, where they were so clear in their minds that it was true. And therefore, halachically, they did nothing wrong. They did the right thing. They were actually obligated to kill Joseph. Their jealousy totally took over them, that they weren't able to see what's going on. And that's why the sages tell us that jealousy takes us away from this world. It doesn't literally take us away from this world physically, but spiritually and even emotionally and mentally, it takes us out of this world. We can't see things clearly because when you're jealous of someone, you literally can't see things clearly. And Rabbeinu Yonah, who's in the Talmud, says that the reason why the second temple was destroyed was for the same reason. It echoed the hatred of the brothers to Yosef. This same jealousy, it was so slight. Their jealousy was so slight. They loved him, but then they were like, wait a minute, he's trying to take over. He's trying to kill us. He's trying to take away our role as the founders of the Jewish people. He thinks that we're not the founders. He thinks that we're still Noahide. We're not. We're Jewish people. He wants to take away our roles in this world, our purpose. And they were literally like, oh my gosh, like jealousy totally took over. And I want to read this line because I think it really, really explains and describes what jealousy is. And it says, and I can't say it any better. Jealousy exists when we see someone achieving more than us. And our soul realizes it's not fulfilling its potential. Rather than accepting responsibility to improve oneself, we seek to eliminate the source of our discontent by putting others down and denying their success. I'm just going to read the first line again. Jealousy exists when we see someone achieving more than us, and our soul realizes that it's not fulfilling its potential. When we realize, oh my gosh, like, am I doing enough? Am I fulfilling my potential? When we start feeling shaky, when we start feeling like self-conscious, that's when jealousy starts taking over. Oh my gosh, they're doing more than me. They're achieving more. They're getting more. They have more. But it really begins with our own self. And I guess that's really what free will is all about also. When we feel good about ourselves, when we make good choices, we end up making good choices, right? It's like a ripple effect. When we don't make good choices, we don't feel good about ourselves, and therefore we start making bad choices, right? And I could say it like with a very simple example of eating, right? When we eat badly, when we eat poorly, I should say, when we don't eat well, we're eating a lot of junk, we don't feel good about ourselves, and then we just want to eat more, and we just don't want to dress well, we just want to wear like baggy clothes, and we want to wear our pajamas, we don't want to get out of bed, we don't feel good about ourselves, and then because we don't feel good about ourselves, we don't make I don't want to work out, I don't feel good, I don't want to work out, I don't want to do the right, it ends up just becoming a ripple effect. And that's really what free will is. When we make good choices and we feel good about ourselves, we end up making good choices. And that's really what jealousy is. When we don't think good about ourselves, when we're not fulfilling our potential, we're not really capturing what our roles are and what our purpose is in this world, we don't feel good about ourselves. And then we start looking at other people. We're like, oh no, what are they doing? What are they achieving? What are they accomplishing? They're already in retirement. I'm not even close to that. I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm never going to be able to live my dream. I'm never going to be able to go to the places I wanted to go to because I'm not fulfilling my potential. And that's really the root, but we lose sight of where that's coming from. and we think that it's real, and we start painting pictures in our minds. And I just want to end with a story, and we'll continue this idea of what happens and how the brothers actually redeem themselves eventually in this crazy saga. And it actually gets even worse. We're going to talk about Asher and Serach and how they were also ostracized from the brothers. And it's like such a family rift. It's become such a family fight. And we really can relate to this. I just want to take out this one idea of jealousy before we continue on, because it's such an important, powerful lesson that we can learn from the brothers, and how they literally saw things in their own perspective and they couldn't see beyond themselves, to the point where they were able to tell themselves, this is the law. Like, we're actually doing the right thing. And they actually were able to justify themselves through the law, which is why, by the way, we need a rabbi. We need mentors. We need rebbitzin. We need teachers to guide us in the right direction, because sometimes we are not really seeing things so clearly, right? We think we do. We think we got it all. Even when someone tells us, this is exactly the situation, I'm telling you, this is what happened. And maybe they're lying. Maybe they have to say a fake story just to shut you up and just to keep you calm. So you don't really even know the whole story, because we're not Hashem. We don't really know what's going on with people. So I want to say this, like, the story about someone who's envious and jealous, that somebody tells us, this guy, I'll give you anything. You can make a wish for anything that you want, and you'll get anything you want. The only thing is that your neighbor, whatever you get, your neighbor is going to get double. So he started to think to himself, okay, I'm going to wish for $1 million. Oh no, but my neighbor's going to get $2 million. No, I don't want that. No. Okay, I'm going to wish for $25 million. No, my neighbor's going to get 50 million. I don't want him to have more than me. And he says, okay, what should I ask for? I'm going to ask for a big mansion with 25 rooms. Oh, no. Then my neighbor's going to get a palace with 50 rooms. I don't want to have that. So what does he do? He finally makes a decision. Take out one of my eyes. He was willing to suffer and have him take out one of his eyes, because then he knew that his neighbor will get 2 eyes taken out. And the Talmud talks about the story and relates the story to us, to understand what jealousy really is, because jealousy is not about what's good for us. Jealousy is about, what does everyone else have? Hashem gives each of us what is meant for us. And I just want to end with this one last story with Rabbi Zusha in the Talmud, that tells us the story that on his deathbed, he was a very, very holy person. And on his deathbed, he was crying. He was crying. And his students said to him, Rabbi Zusha, why are you crying? You're such a special person. Like, okay, you're dying, but like, we know where you're going. You're going to like the next world. You're going to like this great place. Like, you did so many good things in this world. There's nothing to cry about, nothing to fear about. Fear. And he says, you know why I'm crying? Because I know that when I die, Hashem, God, is going to ask me, and he's going to judge me. And he's not going to say, Rav Zusha, why weren't you like Moshe, right? Why weren't you like Moses? He's not going to say that to me. He's going to say, Rav Zusha, why weren't you like Rav Zusha? He's going to ask me what I accomplished. He's going to say, Rav Zusha, did you accomplish what you were meant to accomplish in this world? And it's not about accomplishing what Moses was supposed to accomplish, or I'm not supposed to accomplish what Jen is supposed to accomplish, or Raquel is supposed to accomplish, or anyone else here. Each person is supposed to accomplish what they're supposed to accomplish in this world. And we're in this world to accomplish those things and to live out our potential. And the brothers lost sight of that, because they really wanted to achieve their potential, and they felt like they weren't able to achieve their potential, and therefore jealousy took over. And they started becoming jealous of Joseph, to the point where they were going to kill him. They were going to kill their own brother. This is not about like Family Feud where you're ignoring your siblings and you're not on talking terms. This is like they were going to murder him. And that was the mistake of the brothers. That there was, yes, they were halachically correct. That if he was a Rosef, if he was going to kill them, that they should have killed him. But there was also a hinge of jealousy. And that's what brought them down. And that's what pulled them down. That's what separated their relationship. And you should know that for 22 years, the brothers literally lived their lives as if they did nothing wrong. They never second guessed themselves. They really believed that they did the right thing. Because, like the Torah says, jealousy takes us out of this world. They couldn't see the right perspective. And eventually, we're going to learn later on how Joseph has to replay a story for them to be able to get to that place where they actually saw that it was in their minds. They were painting a picture in their head. They were dreaming up a dream. And it wasn't real. It wasn't reality. And Joseph did not have any intention of taking them down. Joseph actually, the opposite, wanted to build them up and to get them to fulfill their potential and to get their roles properly. He didn't have any intention to kill them or to dominate them. He just wanted to just help them and to guide them and to serve them. But in their minds, they literally, in their heads, thought that he was killing them. And that's where they went wrong. And Joseph has to literally paint a whole picture for them when they come down to Egypt for food. And we're going to learn later on exactly what those details were in order for them to really understand how they were so wrong in their perspective. And I really want to eventually get into this whole beautiful woman that we're going to get into, Sarah Bas Asher, the daughter of Asher, and how she was adopted actually from Asher, and how she comforted Jacob her whole life, for 22 years that he was depressed. And as she was such a strong woman, I really want to get into that a little bit next time and take a break a little bit about what's going on with Joseph and the brothers, just to delve into what happened with Sarah and how powerful women are in the Torah. And the Torah really shines a light on Sarah. And a lot of us don't know the story because it's not really so highlighted. We just know that Sarah Bas Asher was the one. Does anybody know what Sarah did, what her role was when Jacob was reunited with Joseph? Does anybody remember? Yeah, exactly. She played the harp, right? She was the one that played the harp, played the music, and sang a song to her grandfather, Ani Yosef Ha'od Avichai, right? I am Yosef, is my father still alive? She plays that whole song, and we learn it when we come home from school when we're little, or our kids come home from school, and they learn, I am Yosef, is my father still alive, right? But we don't really understand who Sarah is. We just know that she played the harp, and so what? Like, what's so special about that, right? So we're going to get into a little bit of who Sarah was, and how powerful of a woman. She was like a powerhouse for generations and generations to come, literally and physically, because she lived for forever. So we're going to learn about her throughout the years and delve into her a little bit. I know we learned a little bit about Miriam. We're going to learn a little bit about her and delve into it, and also continue this idea of what's going on with the brothers and how this relates to us. Okay. Anybody have anything to add? Any questions? Anything?